Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's pick a card reading, the inspiration basically came from a thought I had when I was off on my morning walk. I do a morning walk every day to keep myself healthy and to clear my mind, and it's sort of meditative. And I was sort of just contemplating what kind of pick a card to do next. And it occurred to me there is a reading that I offer as a private reading on my Etsy store. And if after this you're interested in that, all the details for the Etsy store are in the description box below. Obviously no pressure, but if you're interested, it's there if you want to look into it. And it is called your Spirit Path reading. And it looks at your spirit path both from a very high level, like a kind of bird's eye view, and then delves within you very deeply, and then does some other stuff like talking to your spirit team. But I thought I would take the first couple of parts of that. The high level view, if you imagine this reading and being a bit like getting a bird's eye view of your spirit path, and then like a bird zooming down, say into a lake to catch something. So I'm trying to think of a metaphor or a visual for that, going really deep into three distinct layers of your spiritual being, or the collective spiritual being, I guess, for each pile, depending upon what you choose. To look both at where are you and kind of how the various aspects of your spiritual being is viewing that and what advice it would bring. So there is another key aspect when I do a private reading, and I often go into a bit more detail than I'm going to do in a pick a card, because this is collective and trying to keep the readings to, 20 minutes to half an hour or whatever at the most. The reading that I offer at my private store is an hour-long reading, so that gives you a bit of an idea about, it does go into more detail, but I'm taking the core elements of it to have a look at that here. So you get a bit of a taste of what that's like in case that's of interest to you. And as I say, there's no need for it to be of interest to you. I haven't sort of set up to just get people to come and get a spirit path reading, but it's available if you're interested. So what you see here with the piles is actually the cards intuitively drawn for the first part of this, or the first part of the first part. It'll make sense as you see the reading, to look at the higher level. And that includes some Dreams of Gaia tarot cards and some other decks. And so one of the Dreams of Gaia tarot is there for the choice. So hopefully the imagery or the energy of that will help you choose which pile to go to. You can go to two. I mean, there's nothing actually wrong with it. I just kind of feel in this situation that it's probably better to try and really hone in on what the one is, because of the nature of the structure of it. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, it could be that there are an amalgam of messages across a couple of readings that are actually more true of your personal circumstances, given this is a collective read. So I'll leave that up to you as always. But to help with the choice, for pile number 1, we have the 6 of water. For pile number 2, we have the 8 of water. And for pile number 3, we have the 5 of earth. So that may help you choose. As I say, if you always go to pile 2, go to pile 2, do whatever works for you. But when you know what reading or readings that you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So what you see here is the basic structure of how we're going to get a high level view of where you are in your spirit path. If you could imagine this as a blog article, a visual blog article of where you're up to, the top row, which is the Dreams of Gaia tarot cards, are like the heading and the first paragraph that sets the scene. And then we have from here to here. So there's a progression of the article. Where are you going? What's the progression over time? So one of the things that really strikes me with this is I think that you'll know if you've come to the right reading, to be honest, if you had any doubts one way or the other and you were choosing between two. Because this is about healing from something that was confusing and difficult, either for you or for others, and using that knowledge and thought and belief and understanding to eventually help others. And this is some sort of new enterprise. So I feel as though for many of you, this could be a calling to be a healer in some way, particularly around psychological issues, around confusion, around emotional baggage, around shadow, around that sort of thing. And using your own journey, which is where I think you are at the moment. You're still trying to sort that out, but we're seeing the the approach that you have and why that's going to work and why it's going to reap a particular outcome for you that is good, but it has done its time to then allow you to rise up and to do something new with it. Because it's kind of all over this reading. We start with the choice that you did. You came to the Six of Water, and in this deck, the Dreams of Gaia Tarot is not really like traditional tarot. It has additional major arcana cards like the Thought card, and the Child is kind of a bit like the Fool, but there's like 3 different versions of the Fool in different forms, so to speak, in the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. So I see it much more like a very complex but powerful oracle. So that Six of water is not so much like the Rider-Waite-Smith sort of view of like the past and nostalgia and all that kind of thing with the Six of Cups. It's more about compassion, empathy, and connecting with that energy and using that energy. And to me, this is then connected to one of the additional major arcana cards, Thought, which is how you create your reality through how you think, the kind of alchemy of it. I feel very much like this character there is almost like looking into an alchemical pot to see what could be created. But there's also a very clear message here of going from one state to another, because we have like 2 different masks. One mask is kind of in the darkness, the shadow energy, but the mask in the future, and that's being illuminated by the new thought, the new design, the bringing together of what has been difficult, clearing that out and then creating something that helps you and others, has the very illuminated golden mask. So I think we see a very strong progression there of thought taking from the shadows into a kind of empathic and bright sort of light that creates the counselor energy. I mean, this is theoretically the Knight of Cups, but again, it's not really like the Knight of Cups. It's more like someone who can counsel and help others. So there's something about that. And the Child is new beginnings. So it has some of the elements of the Fool, but it really is about a new beginning, a new adventure or something. And I feel for you, this is like, it's a new approach, but like I just sort of feel as either like a new business or a new approach that you take to your career or to your spiritual path and what you want to give to others. But it comes from understanding that a period of difficulty, and we'll talk about that, which you are still kind of in, but you're coming out of, will reap rewards. But it's very alchemical. It's very much like a sense that you are either in or heading towards what they call the Negredo, which is a stage in the alchemical process where all the elements of a situation, of a thought process, of whatever it is that you're dealing with, kind of get put all in the pot and they're burned down. And eventually what comes out of it is, the kind of phoenix energy, the peacock, the kind of like the new energy that heads towards a more integrated spiritually and materially kind of approach that you will have. So I feel, but it's not an easy place. It's analogous to the dark night of the soul, to like kind of the difficult time and kind of vision quests, to hollowing out and shamanism. There's a number of different energies or stages within spiritual processes that kind of equate to this. So if you don't resonate to alchemy, it doesn't matter, but just think of it as that, at the moment. And what is beautiful about you is that out of that, even though it's difficult and some of it's very challenging, which I'll get to, what is your first response is your compassion and your caring. And because of that, that's what you think about. Even though there is confusion and issues to deal with here, you're thinking about how to heal others, how to support others, how to understand. Even if you were dealing with someone very difficult, and some of you might be dealing with someone who's gaslighting you, you might be dealing with someone who's using inappropriate power, you might be in an organization that's doing that, you could be in any of those things. Even if that's the case, your response is to actually understand them and be compassionate. And it's really powerful spiritually. That's why there's a harvest. That's why there's the phoenix rising here. So if we have a look at if we look at this as a journey through compassion and using your thoughts to create something new, this new venture where you understand that you're a healer and a counselor and all of those sort of things. Where you are right now, the distorted, the grotesque, that carved in stone crumbles on the spire. Was it all a lie? There's something going on that was not what it appears, particularly when you have fog as the alchemical card about what's going on at the moment. That is literally pretty much what it states. It's like nothing is clear. So I think for most of you, as I say, you'll know if this is right, because right now you would need to be going through something like this. You'd need to be dealing with some situation spiritually, vocationally, romantically, family or other social things, something where you really think that you've had, lies or distortions or, or something is just wrong, and it's like kind of like trying to wade through mud or something to get to the truth. So you're in that position at the moment, but it's almost the fire that's necessary to burn out so that you can rise above it and understand how to help others and even understand what's going on here. So that's going on, leading you to summer, which is harvest. So this will end. Like, that's the first thing this is saying. This situation is coming to an end. Whatever you're dealing with, it will clear up. You will get the clear thought. You will see more. You'll be able to understand how this is taking you to something new, and you'll be able to let go of the past that was associated with it. Whether that is if you've found somebody, like a romantic partner who hasn't been honest, then you move away from it, but you do it with compassion and you understand that's a harvesting, or you change a job, or you just change what's going on in a situation. You don't necessarily have to go anywhere, but there is a harvest coming out of this. So it may seem really confusing at the moment, but you are heading, because your heart and your head are really beautifully aligned, Pile 1, it's going to work out for you. You're not going to get too confused because your heart is a really good navigator. And because the heart is there, whatever you come out of this is not going to be distorted in itself through response, because sometimes when we deal with people who are lying to us, or who are difficult, who are despotic, we can become the thing we despise and try to deal with it. You're not going to do that. You're heading to something else. This is why a harvest is coming, which then says, rise up the phoenix. From the ashes of past come the birds of flame. You will rise victorious. So whatever is going on, you'll close this out. You'll be victorious. But the point is the child. The point is the new thing that you are going to do with this. So you're meant to do something with it. Let's have a look at archetypes around where you are now and where you're heading to give a little bit more of an energy about the pathway at the moment that you're on that will lead you to the child. The kind of marriage, actually, of the counselor and the child, in a way, the new venture where this ability and this understanding of what you have comes into being, and you can have the golden mask rather than feeling in a negredo, as I said. So an archetype energy that's around the confusion you have at the moment is aletheia, and then an archetype energy that's around summer, which is what is the harvest, is the vow. Oh, that's really interesting, given the dedication that one would have to whatever the child represents. In addition, aletheia is all about the truth, so you've got a kind of dedication to what you're heading towards. There is a dedication to the truth, and the truth, heading towards the truth, heading towards an act of truth, is what clears the fog, that clears something. So there's definitely a sense here of you pursuing the truth, finding the truth, speaking the truth, whatever it needs to be, getting clarity so that the truth can emerge in a situation that's been distorted, that's been not truthful in one form or another. Whether that's your own lack of truth, though I doubt that. I actually think this is much more likely to be external, because the way you're responding to this is a little bit too high level to be creating that. But, you will know if you feel it's actually something in yourself and shadow work that you're doing, then you're confronting the truth within yourself and clearing that out. And then you make the vow, so the harvest coming out of that creates a new vow, a new way. And look, there's a bird rising here from the hands, and there's a bird going towards the child. I feel like that's kind of the alchemical bird too, the kind of concept of the higher order energy. So it is heading towards an outcome. There is something now that you are rising up to dedicate yourself to. So your spirit path is about coming out of a time of lies, distortion. What do they say? Is it George Orwell that said, somebody said, I think it was George Orwell in 1984, said something to the effect of, at a time of universal deceit, the truth is a revolutionary act, or something like that. I might have got that quite a little bit wrong, but it's something like that. So this is you, like the new energy, the new beginning, that kind of internal spiritual revolution. So one of the things I like to do in this particular reading, when I do it privately, is I also use a deck called the Astro Kabbalah deck that has things from the Kabbalah, Hebrew power letters, and astrology. I pull out a number of cards, and sometimes, depending upon what I see in the hour-long reading, I'll use other decks as well too. But I'm just going to get a couple of cards from the Astro Kabbalah deck to see what else we want to know about this high level before we start to talk to the layers of your spirit. So, firstly, we have Capricorn, lantern of self-discipline. I do think there's something material. That's what I feel like. You're meant to create something material. Mountainous earth, archetype, manager, initiator. Yeah, I think you're meant to initiate. I think this is meant to turn into some sort of thing in your vocation, in a business, or an offering in some way for most of you. But otherwise, Capricorn, it is about, some of you may be dealing with some political or social issues or power issues with Capricorn there, but your self-discipline, your capacity to come through it is what's going to make you victorious. Capricorn may be strong in your chart as well. And then, the perfect, one of the Sephiroth from the Kabbalah, Hod. Hod is actually the divine will, your will aligning with the divine will. It's called splendor amongst other things because it is where you connect your will, what you want, what you are trying to create with the divine will and what you were created to do, basically. It's a kind of a acceptance, and it fits very much with the vow. There's a very strong sense of taking on a spiritual assignment associated with this that is very much aligned with your like life path and your spirit path. Connects with Mercury as well, so communication is important here. So how you communicate, the thinking. This is why the thinking is important. It's not just the heart. I mean, you definitely have the heart, but it's also the thought, how you communicate, that's important. Reason and clarity, as it says here. It's like, aha. There's an aha moment of like, this is what I'm meant to do. There's a quote by Marcus Aurelius says, you have the power over your own mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And that's true. It's like you go within because something in the external is an issue here, but it will end. This too shall pass, so to speak, and you will be able to then dedicate yourself to what this is telling you. So let's build this with talking to layers of yourself. So I need to explain this quickly. I always explain it in the private reading. This doesn't necessarily rely on you believing in past lives, but the structure and way I talk about it kind of does. It's just that if you don't, then and I will mention what it is, you just do slightly different time periods, because what we're looking at is talking to the collective soul energy, spirit energy, higher self energy, and an incarnated spirit energy. So 3 different perspectives. So what I mean by the soul is that spark of you that came out of the divine, whenever that was, whether we all came out together or whether we came out at different times, through to when you would reconnect with the divine at the end of your sort of spiritual path, when you've sort of like moved outside of needing to be in the karmic cycle and all that kind of thing. So its perspective is ages and centuries and eons, and it can be the most dispassionate. It is probably less worried about whether you're quote unquote happy or suffering, because all of it is grist to the mill of spiritual development. So it can feel a little bit, as I say, dispassionate. But it gives you that really long-term perspective. Now, if you don't believe in past lives, that's fine. Think of that as cradle to grave. The second level is your higher self. And that is, in my thing with past lives, involve the cradle to grave. So where are you in your life path now in this life? And it's got a pretty long range view as well too, but a little bit more immediate in the moment. So a little bit more compassionate to you. And if you don't believe in past lives, then think of that as maybe the section of your life. If you think that like you have childhood to adolescence, then you have early adulthood, and then you have middle adulthood, and then you have older adulthood. Maybe just think about that period of time, whatever you're in. And then last but not least, the incarnated unconscious spirit, which is the part of you that's right there, right in the moment, dealing with all of this. So it's the most likely to be compassionate to you. So we just want to see the perspective of each and the advice of each around this for you. So your soul energy, pile 1. What does that want to say about where you are now? The Weaver's Knot reversed. Ace of Cups reversed. The Magician round's definitely showing the issues that you're dealing with. 4 of Wands upright. 8 of Pentacles reversed. 9 of Pentacles reversed. So I chose using this particular tarot because of the additional major arcana, and this is one of them. and also because I find it really powerful on a spiritual level to get to what's really going on, particularly at depth. This is definitely the moment your soul is describing the situation you're in. The Weaver's Knot reversed is about the making of fate, and that is about how your own mind and your thinking can make fate, but it's reversed. So it's saying at the moment you're caught in confusion, you're caught in karmic loops, you're caught in something that's not right, something that's distorted. So it's definitely saying that. It is making it hard for you to contact your heart, but your heart is probably the way out of that. But there are lies. Like it's saying right now you are being confronted with lies. And I think it's because with Alethea there and the vow that you're meant to become a beacon of the truth, but you have to sort your way through that. It is saying that you're heading towards your own kind, your own people. So it may be leaving something. The summer may be this literally leaving people to find your people. Otherwise, you will find your people in the struggle. And it's saying you've mastered this. You've mastered what you need to do. This is why. It's like now this has been brought into your life to deal with and clear out. And for you to experience it, to understand it, but also have compassion for it to whatever degree that's appropriate. It wouldn't have come to you until you've mastered the ability, and you have mastered the ability, but you're meant now to find your people. So it says one of the things about this new enterprise, whatever this is meant to be with others. It's not just an internal battle, and it may have been up till now for whatever reason. It's much more about how you can help others. So a big thing for you at the moment is to find your people. They are both saying that. You are not meant to be alone, but at the moment you're with people that are not of the heart and not honest. So it's working that through, clearing that energy out. So I think that your soul is saying, yeah, this is tough, but it was necessary because out of that, you start to see your mastery and find your people. So what does your higher self want to say? Six of Wands, victory. Yeah, victory is coming. Ten of Pentacles, Two of Cups reversed, King of Pentacles reversed, the Moon, Ten of Swords. Okay. For many of you, I think this might be around either a romantic partner or there's a person that has not been honest. So your higher self is pointing that out. It's saying you will have victory and you will maintain what you need and you'll create your own legacy and the child will grow to something that is a legacy. So victory is coming, but you do need to understand there is something very false in a connection that you have at the moment. And it could be romantic with Two of Cups reversed, but it doesn't have to be. But again, what your higher self is saying is that's painful, but it's the pain that occurs when something has reached, when it's come to summer. In many ways, King of Pentacles reversed is a good example of summer. Or summer moving into autumn maybe is the best way, because the beginning of summer, everything's sort of like spring and summer, things are blossoming or whatever. But by the time you're moving past summer, you're moving into autumn and things have to, the leaves have to fall, things have to change. So something is going on, something has to end. It's saying it over and over. It will bring you victory and head towards something that's more sustainable, but something has to end. And there are mysteries to bring to the surface. You will find it is not as intellectually painful as you expect. It won't be as hard to do either. Whether it's that you challenge someone and they have to tell you the truth, or whether it's just that you will find that a lot of the sting has already gone out of it. You've kind of realized that this is meant to sort of move on. But there's definitely a moving on from something or somewhere because the time has come for that. It's also with the Moon, with the Eight of Pentacles, they're pointing out that this is a very strong spiritual mastery that you've developed. And you may need to keep some of that hidden, actually. It's sort of what I'm getting is like you can't tell everybody about that mastery or how you're doing it. So for many, you might just appear to be a counselor and someone who understands human psychology well, but there is something deeply spiritual in your mastery. Okay, and what does your incarnated spirit, which is right in the middle of it, think about it all? King of Wands reversed, Death reversed, Seven of Pentacles reversed, Five of Wands. Yeah, it's right in the middle of it. The Hanged Man, Four of Cups. Okay, yeah, and this is what I would expect with this energy. Like the part that's closest to you, the unconscious sort of spirit, is at the moment very much tied up in whatever these lies and this distortion of power, because there's something like that going on. And your incarnated spirit feels you don't have a lot of choice. And to some degree that's true, because you have to go through this process of alchemizing it. It's not going to grow anymore. Whatever this is cannot grow anymore. But what your incarnated spirit is also saying is that equally its power can't grow. So your power is on the rise, its power is on the wane. So the conflict is going to get less. It's going to be there, but there's going to be a bit of conflict. It says there's a sacrifice required, but again, deeply spiritual. Like this is going to really waken up some very strong spiritual gifts for you, ones that you maybe didn't even know, ones that maybe were a bit dormant, but this is partly what's triggered it to trigger the mastery. But you may feel there's a bit of a sacrifice, and you may not be entirely happy about that. But as I say, it's a bit like, when summer's ending and we have autumn coming on, it's like it always feels a little bit like, oh, all the leaves are going to fall. It's going to be very dark for a while, but it's only for a while and the seasons shift. So it's a very clear message for you that there is something very difficult you're going through at the moment. It has to do with, abusing power or lying or some combination of that. But your heart and your capacity to connect your mind and your heart will clear that energy for you, and it will show you a mastery that you have, a skill that you have, that you're meant to do something with. It's part of connecting you to your path. So you're strong enough for this, pile one. Okay, so that is basically the reading, that I wanted to do the sort of like introductory sort of side of it. But what I do want to do is finish with a synthesizing message. And what I'd like you to do is choose a number between 1 and 3, because I'm going to lay down 3 cards from a dream and liminal space message deck, and that will give us just one other aspect in both, usually, and it usually has both its challenging and its helpful elements, to give you just a little bit more information about what's going on and what to do next and what to focus on. So if you can pause if you need to, but choose a number between 1 and 3 now, because I'm about to lay the 3 cards out. So if you chose number 1, we have Peacock. Oh, wow. Peacock and the Phoenix are both coming out of the Negredo, amongst other things. We'll get down to what else it's saying, but that's really interesting. If you chose number 2, Black, okay. And if you chose number 3, Bird. Oh, Sam, there's something about birds with you. I almost said, and so I'm going to say it now, that for some of you, maybe there's a bird totem around you at the moment, a spirit animal, that kind of thing. Anyway, if you chose number 1, Peacock, I mean, in general, this talks about pride, confidence, authenticity, prosperity, divine protection. And so you are divinely protected. You do have that around whatever this is. But you could be dealing with people with false pride or false confidence. You are authentic. You are going to prosper out of this. But as I say, the peacock on an alchemical level is very, very important. It is mentioned, or it's thought of symbolically after the Negredo, because all the colours come out after the burning out in the Negredo, so it looks like a peacock's tail. So this is very profound. It's very much saying that this is to create that more beautiful you, and that is very close. If you chose number 2, I'd say it may take a little bit longer to get through all that. I think you're right in it with Black. We've got feminine energy, mystery, intuition, magic, and subconscious. There is a huge element for you if you chose number 2 around finding your own magical power and tapping into your unconscious. And pay a lot of attention to the 3rd row of the tarot for this, because the kind of the subconscious is very much the realm of the incarnated unconscious spirit. The other thing I would say, though, and I find it really interesting, is that Black is the color of Binah in the Kabbalah. And Binah is the divine mother, hence the feminine energy. She is the combination of clear thought and compassion. So for some of you, you have a very strong connection to Binah, to the divine feminine, that kind of energy. And that's part of what gives you the power. But it's not easy. She is at the top of what they call the pillar of severity. And it's because once you start to engage your heart in the material world, you're moving out of the kind of undifferentiated intellect sort of thing of Hokmah, and you're going to Binah. You have to feel. And you may have actually, the people who've come to this, you may have tried to shut down your feelings to deal with this, but it's saying your feelings are part of what will take you through it and prove your authenticity and that kind of thing. If you chose number 3 with the bird, I do think you have some sort of bird spirit totem. It says message, news, happiness, prosperity, flight, freedom. So again, you're going to get out of this situation. It's saying it over and over. I think the bird's eye view, it's pointing to the main part of this reading for you is the first part where I laid out the cards to start with. It's interesting to see what the various layers of your soul and spirit want to talk about, but it's the bird's eye view that matters. Having the bird's eye view. And I think that kind of makes sense that for some of you, like being able to see it in the long term and see it from, if you were flying way above it and you can see all the variables of it, is a useful thing, because if you dive too deeply in it, you get caught up in the experience of the grotesque and so forth at the moment. So I think it's definitely a point of pay attention to the first half of this reading in particular if you chose number 3. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So this is the structure of the first part of the reading that I will do if I do a spirit path reading for somebody privately. Think of it this way. The top row here, which is the Dreams of Gaia Tarot, is like if I was writing a blog article on where you were in your spirit path at the moment. This is like the heading and the first paragraph. And then from here to here is like how the blog article would move in terms of where you are now, where you're going to, and so forth. It's interesting. Now, this is the second one. I always film in order. And so far, I think it's very clear whether or not this will be your reading. You'll know pretty quickly from what I say as a high-level overview of what I'm seeing here. And I thought the same thing in pile 1. It might be why I sort of felt that there is something quite specific about this reading, and like going just to 1 is probably wise. But if this doesn't feel right, or parts of it feel right, but you don't feel like it's all of it, then by all means go to another reading. But if it doesn't feel right, maybe go to another reading, because it's quite specific. This is talking about where you are right now, and thinking of this as the high level, kind of like if you were a bird flying above your own spirit path and looking at it, what you would see, like in the longer term. This is suggesting that you feel stuck and maybe unappreciated on some level, in a relationship, in a workplace, spiritually, whatever it is. And what Spirit wants you to know is that this is kind of Spirit nudging you towards some form of practice that will align yourself not only with the right people if you aren't feeling like you're moving forward, being recognized and all that kind of thing, and find your soul family and find your connection. So this is definitely for people who feel like, I don't feel like I'm with the right people, or I don't feel like I'm being recognized, or I don't feel like I have a clear idea of what I'm doing, and you're feeling kind of a bit caught, stagnant, and as I say, maybe not recognise silver, which I'll get to. But what Spirit is trying to say to you here is that in actual fact, you're closer to what you want, and it's a choice. You have to make a choice. You have all the ingredients actually to find your soul family, to find the recognition. It's all there. You're not lacking in anything. It's not like you'd have to go off and study something or whatever to get recognised. That's not the case. It's kind of a choice about your focus and your way of responding to things. Because we have here the one of the major arcana, additional major arcana in the Dreams of Gaia Tarot, and that is about choice. And this almost suggests to me, I always think when I look at this, is like 3 doors. So it's almost like there's 3 choices or 3 options. One would probably be to stay roughly where you are and stay feeling stuck. One might be a mid-road, which is not too big a shift, but it's like it's changing both your own response, which is a big part of this, but also, sort of small changes and seeing what the ripple effect is. And one may be a very big change. So for some of you, you don't need to kind of leave a workplace or leave a relationship or whatever, but you need to tweak it. And some of it taking a different attitude so that you tweak it in a way that's going to work for you. But for others, it may be that, what is required is to leave one thing because it's not going to recognise you or not going to accept you or whatever it might be. But all that you need, you have. Because this is saying, like with the 8 of water and with the 3 of water, this is in the Dreams of Gaia deck. It isn't really like moving away from a bad emotional situation as it tends to be in right away. But even if you had a flavour of that, even if you kind of had both the Dreams of Gaia and the more traditional, there is a kind of sense of maybe moving away from emotional patterns that aren't suiting you, but it's more about appreciating those that will. And so instead of thinking of the 8 of water as I'm walking away from what's not working, it's more like I'm going to walk towards what is. but that some of what you have is, it's not kind of like you have to leave everything necessarily. I mean, some of you may have to make a much more radical choice, but generally speaking, there is an appreciation and a celebration with the Three of Water, which is probably one of the cards in this deck that is the closest to what it means in the Rider-Waite-Smith. It is about celebration or whatever. So it's saying you're heading towards something good, but you do need to make that choice. And this is about grounding yourself with the Seven of Pentacles. So the Seven of Pentacles or Seven of Earth is about growth and finding growth. So we have, again, kind of a similar energy to the Rider-Waite-Smith way of looking at it. But this is really about finding that balance and finding and getting back into nature, getting to your own nature, getting to what is natural to you, getting things aligned. So it's like there is all that you need is there. Emotionally, all that you need is there. And materially, all that you need is there. It's not really a philosophical decision, I don't think, because there isn't and it's not about ego for you, though I do think you're not necessarily recognized or you're underestimating yourself. So it could be a bit of either of those things because of that. But we're not seeing wands and we're not seeing swords as part of this. This is more about knowing materially and emotionally you have all that you need so you can make the choice. Because right now you feel stuck. Stagnation, the bread oven, the dial stays stuck, things no longer move, time to turn up the heat. So you do need to start to make some decisions. And part of this has to do with silver. Silver is interesting in the alchemical process. There's silver and gold. And they're both kind of aspirational, but gold is the ultimate aspiration. Silver is a little bit analogous to the moon in a sun-moon thing, if the sun is gold, and we see the moon there. What can be the case with this is to feel like the second one, like the lesser sibling, the person who isn't seen as the star at work, the person who isn't necessarily chosen romantically or whatever it might be. It's a bit like, just like the moon picks up reflected light of the sun, silver is sort of seen as close but not quite the aspiration. So it definitely suggests that, well, one of two things. I think the main thing, because this is what I'm getting really strongly here, is that you're not necessarily recognized for all that you can do at the moment. You will get there. You're heading to the soul family, the tribe, but this is the nudge you need to make the decision and to understand, as I say, if you had to go on the journey, that you have what you need to do it. Like you are stocked up with whatever you need, but you kind of got stuck rather than making the choice. So whether it's tweaks around things or whether it's a big change, that probably the one choice that's not a good choice is to stay where you are, because you stay stuck at this point. So you're close, and that's the other thing. You could be very close to a spiritual breakthrough, but not quite. It's like, I can't get over the finish line, a bit like the Nine of Wands. And that could be also like you have to make a choice to celebrate what you've done, because it's almost like you focus so much on the goal that you're not seeing what you picked up along the way. And that's the thing that would actually get you across the finish line, but you're not seeing it. So either way, that's an issue. Now, what's interesting is that we have rotation, which is about what it looks like. It's about doing things over and over until we master them or until we really understand them. So I think this is saying there is some practice you're asked to do. This choice is about changing some routines in your life in one form or another. So, it might be like I have to deal with a heart issue, for instance. So I had to change the routines in my life because I had to get better cardio health. So I had to build a new routine around exercise and so forth. So that's just an example. It's not sort of saying everybody's got to go out and do an exercise regime here. But there's something about, it's the repetition of things to master them and to almost live what you want. You're making the choice to, whether it's tweaks or whether it's major, to send out the message by the things that you do, the things you repeat, the things that become part of your general patterns, that is like a beacon that draws in the soul family. So we have the soul family, the tribe, eternally there, they have your back, turn to your tribe. So I feel as though this is saying you're feeling a bit stuck for whatever reason, or unseen or unrecognized. But you have everything you need to find your right people and to move forward and to achieve what you're trying to achieve. But it's almost like you have to get the discipline to just do almost the boring things, or almost the things that sort of feel like, oh, I've got to keep doing this and keep doing this, keep doing this. But there's something like that, whether it's, in some sort of manifestation thing, repeating sort of like mantras, or whether it's, as I say, doing some sort of regime that kind of, makes you feel connected to the earth or to your emotions. There's something about repetition, like building some things into your routines, it shows you, like, it literally will lead you to your people in one form or another. Like meditation regularly could be a thing, and you might go and join a meditation group, and in doing that you find your people. Like, there's something like that going on. So it's the incorporation of your spiritual sort of energy into a regime, I think, that makes all the difference. So let's just see. I always use the Wild Unknown archetype deck as well too, to just get a little bit more about silver and rotation, a little bit more about what we're talking about here. So the Queen, and the Queen and the King. See, that's really interesting. Okay, and then rotation. The Creator. Okay. So this adds a really interesting line to it. The Queen and the King, in terms of archetypes, are kind of similar, but depending upon the cultures that you're talking about, some people would see the Queen as lesser to the King, or in reference to the King. I don't, but others may, and people that you're around might. So it might be being at the Queen element in a sense of the tarot, and you've got one more step to the King. The Queen being the moon element to the King's sun element. There's something like that going on, but it is saying it is a sovereignty. You're meant to find your sovereignty. So I do feel that you will become a leader in the soul family, because this is what I feel. I feel like there's something about, once you incorporate, when you make the choice and you see it and you understand your self-sufficiency, you incorporate that. In doing that, you lead others, you show others something, they see it in practice. And so it's very interesting then with the rotation, creation, out of the rotation, out of a routine, out of a regimen of some sort, you are creating something, which, if you are the creator, you have to be the first principle of it, not the second principle of it. For some of you, a really good analogy of this actually would be sort of someone who's been at university doing quite well, got your sort of, your Bachelor of Science, your Bachelor of Arts, or whatever it might be, Bachelor of Law. And this is like going to the next level. It's like it's close, but you're not yet recognized about how you would be having something individual, like new thought, new areas of study, and you go to study a master's or a PhD or something. And it's kind of in the repetition of a process, which is really good academic research and so forth, and then connecting it with your own inspiration, that you find where you fit and where you would be a thought leader. So it's just an example, but that's a way of looking at what we're talking about here. Okay, so what I also use, I usually use a few cards out of this deck, but I'm only going to use two now, just to sort of keep this to a reasonable time frame for a pick a card. I also use the Astro Kabbalah deck, which has astrology, the Kabbalah, and Hebrew power letters. I just find it's very good at getting some extra information about what's going on. So we'll see what we get for you. So firstly, wow, this came up in one of the others, Hod. So this is all about you finding your spiritual purpose. Hod is one of the Sephiroth. It is the one, it's called Splendor. It is also, in a sense, submission to the divine, in as much as it is aligning your will to the divine and understanding what your purpose is here. But it is connecting back to the Creator. In this could, for some of you, this could be in a very spiritual thing, where there's a kind of a, I could sort of see you as, like a Buddhist monk, or I don't know, somebody who, joins, a nunnery, or or becomes a priest or something, where it becomes like that connection and that grounding of it, and the repetition of daily prayer or whatever. It doesn't have to be that, but there's something very, very profound in Hod coming up. And it does give you the reason, the clarity, the understanding, and so forth. There is a quote here from Marcus Aurelius: "You have power over your own mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." And they're saying you have everything you need. Whatever this block is, you can move past it by aligning with what you are here to do. And we have the energy of Pisces. So you may have Pisces strongly in your chart, or it might be connecting with your people, because Pisces, in a sense, as the last of the signs, incorporates aspects of all the signs. I'll just read you what it says. "Ideals and dreams stem from the depths of my being, and I express these in my daily actions. I analyze my thoughts and use a methodical process, repetition, to bring structure to my imaginative mind. My smile is infectious and spreads joy to others. I believe in the charitable nature of the human race, and this encourages me to make this world a place of greater happiness. Through my unswerving faith and empathic awareness, I demonstrate hope for mankind. Okay, so there's sort of, for some of you, this is about, joining some sort of spiritual order potentially and doing something for mankind. So it's a very big soul family. But otherwise, this is about finding your place and where you can be sovereign. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move to what would be the second part if you came to a private reading on this. And this is talking to various elements of your spirit. So it's done mainly on perspectives over time, and there is a logic to this that is based on if past lives exist. So if you don't believe past lives exist, I will tell you how to think about the time interval in a different way, because it can work without you believing in reincarnation. But I generally talk about it over lifetimes and so forth. So firstly, talk to your soul, and what I mean by your soul is the part of you that was like the divine spark, and that will eventually return whenever we all return, or when you jump off the karmic cycle, whichever comes first. Its perspective can be quite dispassionate because it's looking at where you are compared to what you are meant to do in the arc of your spiritual path and what you're designed to do, as Hod would say. And, if you're having a difficult life, it could think that, well, that's really good for your development. So it can be a bit dispassionate. And so if you're feeling stuck at the moment, it would be seeing that as this is meant to build a pressure up, so that you do actually sort of step forward and do the things and incorporate the changes that you need to change in your life to reach what you're meant to reach. So that's over that period. If you don't believe in past lives, think of it as cradle to grave. So it's looking at your whole life. The second level we talk to will be your higher self, and I think of as cradle to grave. But if you didn't believe in past lives, then think of that as the time period. If you think about like segments of life, the first segment being childhood and adolescence, the second segment being young adulthood, then we have middle adulthood, and then we have older age. Think of it as where you are then and what might be important then. And then the third level is your incarnated unconscious spirit. So it's right in the moment. Regardless of whether you believe in past lives or not, it's right in the moment. Okay, so let's see what your soul wants to say about this. Pile 2. 5 of Pentacles. Knight of Pentacles, the Fool, the Hermit reversed, the 3 of Wands, the Devil. Okay. So your soul is saying to you at the moment you feel alone. This is what part of what you're heading towards is finding your people. You're feeling alone. You may be feeling stuck financially as well. You may feel like it's saying you have what you need, but you may not really feel it. You may feel alone. You may feel materially, I don't have what I want. Your soul is saying just focus on one day at a time and on the repetition. Be consistent. Knight of Pentacles is consistent. In like a career reading, it's the day-to-day turning up to work, just doing it day in, day out. There is a kind of a sense of, even if you feel that you don't have what you need materially, you're not getting the support you need, just keep doing it because you're heading towards a breakthrough. This is meant to bring you to the top of the mountain to work out what your next step is. And unless you do dedicate yourself, this is the rotation, to just every day doing the same thing. I mean, what is it that Confucius saying? I think it is, before enlightenment, chop wood. After enlightenment, chop wood. It's kind of like don't underestimate the importance of what you're doing materially and synthesizing all of this sort of on a bodily regimen in some way, because you are meant to do something new. And in that, you're going to mean to come out into the world more and be seen more in the world. At the moment, you aren't. You're hidden in some way. But once you find your people, the example of what you're doing, it's not going to be as hidden, and it's practical. It's saying like practical things will do this. Practical things will give you the direction. But the issue you've got to deal with is that at the moment you see that practical stuff as being part of the trap, as being boring or not helpful. But it's saying you can either through just small changes or through just saying I'm going to leave something completely and I'm going to establish a new routine. You have to understand the value of routine. There is something here that is important for you. It's important because it's how you're going to create something new. But you've got to see that that's important. Okay, so then what does your soul's kind of going, yeah, look, yeah, I get it, but this is the way. You've got to do it. So then what about your higher self? What is your higher self saying to you? Two of Wands, Page of Swords, Four of Pentacles reversed, the Magician, Two of Cups, Seven of Pentacles. Okay. So your higher self is saying, in the end, this is a choice. It all comes down to choice. So you can stay stuck if you want. And it's not like you're going to like have a bad outcome. It's just you're going to stay stuck. But it is a choice. You have to act. Action is required. And it's sort of saying, listen to the message, because the message is meant to help you break out of. It's not about retaining and doing routine and repetition that is not building a solid foundation. It's about clearing that out and focusing on what will. It's about using your skills. Your higher self is saying you do have what you need. You have all the skills to do this. And this is how you will manifest something. You can't do it without repetition. But it's not repetition for repetition's sake. So if you were trying to get, it's like if you were trying to get more, I don't know, healthy, and you kind of stayed up late every night, drank a lot, and ate lots of foods that weren't very good to you. Repeating that over and over is not going to work. It's probably going to be actually having a routine of going to bed earlier, drinking more moderately, and trying to eat healthier. And it might not seem all that exciting, but it's not just about repeating things that aren't working. It's finding the tweaks that will make it work more, knowing that you have what you have. Yeah. And it's saying that, like, if you're looking for love or connection, that will come in through using your skills. Even if it's not like romantic love, it's connection with others for the soul family. This is reconnecting to your heart, and it will grow, but it's a slow process. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen. Okay, so then if you're in Australia, we had a particular ad campaign that said something like that. I was suddenly thinking about it I think it was for a shampoo or something. I can't remember. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. What does your incarnated spirit think? It's right in the moment of what's going on at the moment. So we have the Ten of Wands. You're tired. You're fed up with it. Knight of Cups reversed. Your heart's not really in it. Empress reversed. You're finding it hard to see how you can become a queen at all. Queen of Swords. So but your mind can help you, and the choice can help you. You've just got to take the blinders off and say, yeah, I can do this. Six of Cups reversed. You need to change things rather than go back to the past. Like, things do need to change, and you have the capacity to change. So you're like your incarnated self, which is usually the most compassionate, says, yeah, look, it's tiring. This is so tiring. And how can you have your heart in it? Doesn't feel. The thing about this, pile two, is that in the moment that you do it, it doesn't feel like you're doing some big spiritual thing and you're going to have some big breakthrough. You will actually, but it's not going to feel like it until it happens. And it's like the repetition and the regime and all that kind of thing is the thing that actually helps. But at first, it's not going to feel like that. It's going to feel tiring and like you're still stuck and your heart's not in it. But it's how you think about it that matters. Your thoughts, your choices, your thoughts are very, very powerful here. It's like, I'm going to shift from the past. It's not going to be the same. I have the choice and I can manifest what I want, and you will be able to. I do get that for some of you, this may be moving away from family dynamics where your birth family or whatever are not really your soul family. And it is it's a very radical change that has to occur. And then you've got to set up your life and set up all that and just start to put in place the sort of regime that will eventually draw in the right people. So for some of you, there's a very radical shift from family, but it's not going to be true for everybody. Okay, so that's the basic sort of first couple of parts of the reading, in a bit of a truncated form from what I would do if you came to me privately. But what I do want to finish off with is something to kind of segment this down a little bit more into the collective. So I'm going to use a deck that has dream and sort of liminal space symbolism to show sort of further messages, synchronicities you might see or whatever. I'm going to put down 3 cards, so I want you to choose a number between 1 and 3 for what will be your synthesizing message. If you need to pause, do so, because I'm about to, pause to choose, do so because I'm about to lay the cards out. So for number 1, we have Oasis. For number 2, we have bird. And for number 3, we have grey. Okay, all right. This kind of makes sense. So for number 1, oasis. I think that's really interesting. We have the sense of like the material world, the earth world, and that there is water. There is the water that you need. There is the emotional support that you need. This is saying that you, again, it's reiterating you have what you need to do this. But it's like you're in a desert and you need to stay close to the water. You need to stay close to your heart. So that is part of this message. But it's also, if you need to, take a bit of a rest before you do it. If you're building a new set of routines, make sure there's enough rest in between them. So respite, recovery, leisure, sanctuary, love, hope and luck. So love, hope and luck are what will come out of this, but it's almost like you have to have your time in the desert and then find your heart and then it will work out. If you chose number 2, I feel like this is like, because the bird, this is like this, the first layout of cards was the bird's eye view. It's the most important part of this message. Certainly take from, the talking to you, various levels of your soul and spirit, but it's the most important thing. Like really try and get that bird's eye view. You may also have a bird as some sort of spirit totem. This talks about message, news, happiness, prosperity, flight and freedom. So again, it is saying it's going to work out for you, but you need to understand that bird's eye view. You need to understand what got you stuck and what will get you out of being stuck. Even though it will feel at first like you're even more stuck because you're just repeating things, it's actually the way to freedom. If you chose number 3, grey, loss, sadness, indecision, depression, confusion, ambiguity, you are feeling it at the moment. Like of anybody who's come to this, you're feeling it at the moment. You're feeling really stuck. You don't know what to do. And that's really picking up what's going on here with the incarnated spirit. Queen of Swords here, very important, like the mind. Grey is also the colour of Chokmah in the Kabbalah. So it's what you believe, what you think that's going to have the biggest impact on this. So at the moment, if you're feeling stuck and stagnant and unappreciated, then you're going to continue to do that rather than see what you have. If you change your thoughts, you change your life. Because you're meant to be able to be the gold in your own life rather than the silver. You're meant to do that because that's what Hod's talking about. But if you got to Chokmah would be showing like that's the first step out of Keter. What are you about? So really go back to that and understand that and believe in that, because you've been given what you need to do it. But there are always sort of like hiccups along the road. So this is to get you past that, to give you a way of having routines and processes and rituals or whatever it might mean. But for you, what you believe about it, what you think about it is key. So I hope that resonates. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So this is the first layout that I do in a private spirit path reading. And it's interesting, all 3 of these, because I do film them in order, have very specific meanings. It's probably why I kind of felt this is really one where it's probably one reading that's the main thing anyway. As I say, by all means go to more if you want, or if the main message here doesn't seem to resonate, try one of the others, because I think it's very specific. I must have had a sense for some reason that Spirit was going to be very specific this time around. So the structure works that the Dreams of Gaia Tarot here, if you imagine this like a blog article about where you are in your spirit path, that would be like the heading and the first paragraph that sets the scene. And then here to here is like the body of the article and almost the story of like where you are now to where you're going. So this to me suggests that, one, you're a highly creative person and you're highly self-actualized. As a result of that, and you're very strategic, materially strategic, as a result of that, there's some sort of blessing coming to you. There's an absolute blessing coming to you. And it has both risk and reward. and it will open up some other understanding or knowledge that you didn't even know you had. So I feel almost like you've graduated on some form. Like it doesn't have to be that you've literally graduated in a university or something like that, but you've reached a kind of a capacity to know who you are very clearly, to make the right connections, and therefore to be able to go out and do something new, because you are meant to do something new. There's something that is new, that has to be created, that doesn't exist yet, that you will be involved in some way, whether this is in a relationship, a vocation, a spiritual path, whatever it is. I mean, it is about your spiritual path, but not like a spiritual belief system or something like that. And a lot will come out of that. A lot more will emerge. It's a whole other journey. But it's kind of done almost with a wisdom. There is a wisdom and a strategic wisdom you have. It's not like you're going at innocently. Now, why I'm saying that is like the youth card there is one of 3 cards that represent the Fool energy in one form or another in the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. And the very first one is the child. So that would be the most like the pure version of the Fool, which is something very new and kind of innocent. But when you get to the youth or the maiden, which is another one of them, that kind of connects also to the Empress with the maiden, the mother, and the crone kind of energy. But just it's a very different structure in the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. But it suggests to me, having gone through a journey, achieved certain things, reached a particular level, and then you're starting again, but with more wisdom. It's what I often will say if I get the Fool reversed. I'll go, okay, this is a new venture, but you understand enough about the elements of it that you're going in there with a certain degree of wisdom. It's not going in innocently. And that fits a lot with this because we've got the strategic card. This is the 5 of Earth, but in this deck, it's not so much about being alone, though there is an indication here if you use Rider-Waite-Smith type of more classic tarot things that this could be a journey towards a relationship if you're looking for one, having been alone. But even if you were alone, there's a high degree of strategy. See how there's like the cards, like how to play the cards. This suggests that you are very aware of the material world and how to navigate it, and you self-actualize. To me, the Queen of Fire is always that. She's the self-actualized person of the tarot. She knows who she is. Her ambition is something that she can meet. All of that kind of thing. Very creative if you are a creative person, but it doesn't have to be like traditional creativity. But you've done some stuff spiritually or pragmatically or whatever it might be where you really know who you are. Pile 3, you're very clear on that. You're very confident. You have good reason to be confident. And you know how to make good relationship connections. Doesn't mean every single friend you have is a fantastic friend, every single lover is perfect, every single person you work with, but you've got a very good understanding of that, and you are in a healthy position to have healthy relationships because you yourself are healthy. Your ego is under good regulation. You are proud where you have a right to be proud, all of that kind of thing. Therefore, you're going forward to do something else. Now, so where you are at the moment is that blessing is coming in. You're aware of this, like things have been going well or they're about to like go well very quickly because you've got Jupiter, which is an incredibly benefic planet. It's lucky. And then we have divine gift, the mermaid's purse, an empty vessel, a gift from the sea, what treasures it holds. Something is coming to you. There's like a reward, a gift, learning about some other gifts, a new spiritual gift coming to the fore, whatever it is, or literally like it is like a reward. Now, that's great. That's great. But there is a warning around Jupiter, which I'll get to. But I'll come back to that. But where you're heading towards having that, it's almost, this is the youth. This is like, okay, now I'm back in the void. The void is the whirlpool of creativity where everything and no thing exists. It's like out of that comes everything, but you don't know what's going to come out of it. So having achieved something, and getting the benefits of it, the next step is then to go into the unknown again. This is part of what you're meant to do, and you're strong enough and secure enough to do it. And you've been given gifts to do that, and it could literally be like a spiritual thing, like being able to spiritually go into the void and into the collective unconscious or into the art in the Kabbalah or whatever it may be. So that's there. And what you're meant to find, hidden truths, the moon gate, in a hidden place lie the sacred words it was already written. So the weird thing about this in a way is that you are meant to do something new, but it is connected to the past in some way, things that were written. So there is a hint here that says you are meant to go into the void, find the next thing to create, but you are then meant to somehow connect that to ancient texts, ancient knowledge or whatever. So I suspect this is connecting to things that you've done in your past lives. So it's not just what you've achieved in this life, but your past lives kick in as well. Because you will find, if you were to meditate, you would find that you would come up with symbols that if you looked it up actually have real resonance in ancient texts and things like that. So it's the new, but it's the new with the wisdom of the past, both of the life that you've had and also I think other lives. And things that you can research from the wisdom of other people. So that's all very good. The only thing that you need to be aware of, though, with Jupiter is that, and this could happen if you're sort of in the void, and this is why maybe this is important. This helps you anchor what you find out. It's going back and seeing how this aligns with other knowledge from the past. But it can be too much. So and the analogy I always use is that in my chart, if transiting Jupiter is near my sun or near my ascendant, I tend to put on weight, regardless of whether or not I've changed anything that I eat. So often we'll use that as the example. It's expansion, expansion of the waistline. So not all expansion is equally benefic. So it's like, don't overdo things. And don't rest on your laurels as a little bit of everything. You're actually meant to do something. It's like pay it forward to the universe and go the next step. You've been prepared for something that only you can really do. But you've got to kind of not just sort of sit and just luxuriate in the expansion of it all. So I always use the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck as well too, to get a little bit more information on the alchemy energies there. So a little bit more about Jupiter for you. The Orphan. Okay, that's interesting. And then what about the Void? The Siren. Okay, I'm actually feeling I want to go to the guidebook. I'm feeling like I want to read you what's... I don't usually do this, but I do feel it for this one for some reason. So bearing in mind that we're talking about benefic support, but also too much. The Orphan. The study of the Orphan is to study the deep and challenging energy of our time. We are ever more connected, yet face collective isolation. Oh, that's interesting. So you have the connection and then you go into the void, the isolation. How do you balance that? Now, you are well placed because you are good at connection, but you've also dealt with isolation. So this makes sense. The refugee crisis haunts our planet. Children are separated from parents and the earth begs for our attention. We are in a time of universal orphanage, of nature, of each other, of our own hearts. So maybe you're meant to, because you've kind of got this balance right and self-actualize, help others, create something with the gift that's coming through to help others feel less orphaned, help others feel more connected. Take refuge in the fact that we are all share this core wound and dilemma. It is normal to fear this card as it haunts the caverns of the soul. When it appears take time, real time, to be in the presence of the feelings this card stirs in you. So that next step and the kind of going into the void and what you're discovering, it may make you feel like, I created all this great stuff and now I'm going back into the first principles and it's all a bit scary. So just be aware of that. That's all I feel I need to read from that one. And then the Siren. Bearing in mind that this is when you're in the void, in what could be created. The siren calls and the world spins. What we thought we wanted pales in comparison to the sweet allure of her song. We found ourselves lost in a spell of desire and longing, perhaps even lust. Whether the thing calling to us is ultimately good or bad is somewhat irrelevant. It's the journey that matters. And the work of the siren is to take us on a deep psychic descent. Following her song, we go down, down, down to a place where lessons are learned and courage must be called to find our way to dry land. So the call of the void is kind of inescapable and very alluring. What this makes me feel, the energy I'm getting overall is that you have managed a lot and you're very self-actualized and you're ready to do the new journey. Some gift comes in. You could just enjoy it, but I think it actually makes you feel the orphan energy of the world. You're like your own benefic, your own compassion, your own kindness, which is part of Jupiter. It becomes almost too much. It expands a lot. So the only way to deal with it is to go into the first principles. Hear the siren song of first principles. What else needs to be done? That's what I'm hearing. What else needs to be done? You do that, and that connects the past and the possible. But it's almost like once you really realize how different you are because you've achieved this kind of self-actualization, and very few people do, it makes you realize with great compassion that you want to pass this on to others. You want to teach others in some way. And the only way to do it is to go back into the void, to feel it completely, to understand it again, and then to connect it to some sort of knowledge. So that's interesting. So I also use the Astro Kabbalah deck. This has the Kabbalah, it has Hebrew power letters, and it has astrology. So I usually use a few cards in a private reading. I'll just use a couple here for a little bit more information. So firstly, we have Hebrew power letter Nun, fish, 24th path working of Scorpio. Yeah, this goes deep, all right. It connects to Sephiroth, Nesach, which is about what you are victorious in, and Tiphereth, what you find beautiful and connected and so forth. The tarot card is death, so it is about transformation and choice. Memento Mori, yeah, there is something. You've created a lot in your current life. You're ready to go on a new journey. You feel the siren call of more depth, and there's something from the past that you have to find. Marcus Aurelius' quote here, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Death smiles at us all, and all a man can do is smile back." So this isn't saying you're going to die, but what it is saying is that there is something here about the expansion and the gift that you give. You know that you want to share with others, that you've tasted what it is, that life is more, and this is your journey to help others with it. For those who are kind of like are connected to Christ consciousness, which is also connected to Tiphereth, when I see fish, I think, like, come, I will make you fishers of men. It's sort of like, I can help others. That's the energy that this is saying. And we have the energy of Sagittarius. So you may have Sagittarius strongly in your chart. It's a very spiritual and philosophical sign. I'll just read you it. "With pure motive, joy and a good heart, I go forward to conquer my goals and reach my ideals." So it's very much like the youth. "Strong enthusiasm and spirit, I shall not falter. My amiable character allows me to take the rough with the smooth. Even when I am competing, I give others a fair chance. I have confidence and optimism in myself and in the world. With my boundless energy, I concentrate on my target, focus my mind and hold my course. I make my goals and visions a reality." So yes, you can do that. It's a very philosophical path. Okay, so what I want to do now is do what would be a version of the second part of the reading that I do in the private reading, and that is to talk to various levels of your spirit and soul. And what I mean by that really are time perspectives. And I'm generally talking about across all lifetimes, this lifetime and immediate, but that means that you believe in past lives. If you don't, then the first one is across this whole life. The second one is the segment of your life you're in, so childhood and adolescence, early adulthood, middle adulthood, old age. So that, and then immediate. So it just depends. You can take it either way. But the first part, the soul, is the longest version of it. And your soul can be a bit dispassionate because, particularly if you're looking at lifetime to lifetime, a lifetime that's really struggling, the soul could see that as being really good for your development. And so be thinking, oh, this is good. You're going through all these trials. Whereas you might be thinking, actually, I prefer to have a nice life. So it's a little bit more dispassionate. By the time you get to your incarnated spirit, it's a little bit more sympathetic to whatever you're feeling at the time. But you look pretty good at the moment, I've got to say. But anyway, let's see what your soul has to say about this. Seven of Wands, Death card, Memento Mori. There's something about choices and transitions. Two of Swords, Four of Wands reversed, King of Pentacles, the Empress. Wow, okay. There's something about this orphan energy. Four of Wands reversed is like not having your family or finding your family or helping others to find their family. And with the King of Pentacles, very much in the material world, and with the mother principle to some extent. So there's a kind of a mothering energy to this. It doesn't mean, that's probably why it's the Queen of Wands that's come up. It doesn't mean that you have to be female or identify with being female. It's just there's a nurturing element to this, but it's material. It's actually something that would last. For some of you, this will bring you into contact with your true bloodline family. Like not necessarily your ancestors in this, but like your spiritual one. Like what is your real spiritual tradition? Because we could be born into all kinds of different bloodlines at different times, but there's one that's core. I think for some of you, there's something about discovering that, and this is part of the hidden truths. It is saying you have the choice about this. It's sort of like the soul saying you don't have to do this right now, but if you want to deal with this, there is a bit of an orphan wound. There's a bit about finding your true lineage in a way. And this is what you've got to do it. But in doing it, you will help others. It's definitely saying you're ready. You're ready, you have the energy, you have the skills, and this is a choice. It's a choice, a transition. It's also saying that once you do it, once you go, you follow the siren's call, go into the void, find the hidden truths and go on the new journey, you will be very changed. It doesn't mean that you'll lose your sense of self, but this is a very big transformation as well for you. Let's see what your higher self wants to say then. The Devil reversed. This is about freedom in many ways. Seven of Pentacles reversed. Two of Pentacles reversed. Fool reversed. That's like what I was saying about the youth. Four of Pentacles. Ten of Pentacles. Gee, this is about some sort of material shift. This has a material outcome. I mean, that's the other thing about Jupiter. There could be like, you could be about to make a lot of money or do really well, and then it's like, what do I do with that next? There is something here about freeing. This is the orphan thing too. There is, I think for most of you, you either weren't born into the family that your soul family is in, or you feel like you've been materially caught up in something, you've moved beyond that. Like there's something in the material world or the bloodlines, because we're seeing so much with the pentacles and so forth here, that you're shifting from. You're shifting from one to the next. Like you have to do this, because if you don't do it, you've achieved something. And if you don't free yourself to the next thing, you're going to get stuck, you know. It's like, you know, if you achieve a educational qualification, if you don't do something with it or go and study to the higher level, you get stuck there. So it's like, don't define yourself just by the success you have now. You are self-actualized, so you can try a lot of things because you already know you're good at some things, and you've got to like see what else you want to expand into. But it is saying that you're not sure about the choice yet. That's why you have to go into the void. That's why you have to get to the point where the Fool reverse, the youth, comes forward and says, I know enough to be able to go and do this new thing. I don't need to know everything, but I know enough. And then if you do it, you've got the foundation to do it. But it is about changing things. It's like it's changing structures, changing things materially. And for some of you, there may be a little bit of a financial risk associated with some of it, but it's saying it won't be as big a risk as you think. Okay, so let's see what your incarnated spirit's saying, which is right in the middle of all of this. Though for you right now, unless you're already feeling the siren call, you should be feeling pretty good at the moment. But if the incarnated spirit knows that's what's coming next, it will know, okay, there's a bigger sort of mountain to climb. So what does it want to say? The Hierophant reversed. The Eight of Swords. The Ten of Cups. Boy, there's something about breaking from old family traditions, I think. The Three of Swords reversed. The Ace of Wands reversed. The Eight of Pentacles. Okay. This has got something to do with you are ready now to break with the past, to become the orphan from the past if you have to, because you are ready to do it. And it's gifts that have been brought to you to make that possible. It's a freedom, but you've got to believe that you can do it. But there is a freedom to be different, to think differently. It's not going to hurt as much to break from this as you expect, but it will hurt a bit, or you'll feel a bit like an orphan. Like that's kind of the energy we're seeing, because it's your incarnated spirit saying that's what you always feel when you're about to go on a road that nobody's gone on yet. Because it's not been realized yet. So you feel alone, you feel whatever. But it's saying this builds your skills. This is what I'm saying. You don't want to get stuck. You are really good, but this allows you to explore even further about what else you can do from the firm foundation of knowing how much skill you already have. I also feel like, it feels very Christ conscious to me. It's like, and I'm just thinking about the Christ story. You don't have to be a Christian. I'm just using it as an analogy, but it feels like leaving the disciples, needed to leave even their joint thing, and they went out to spread the gospel. That kind of energy, if I go forward away from my family, away from my traditions to something that is new, it's that kind of feeling. As I say, you don't have to become Christian for this. I'm just using it as an analogy. But there's something about that. But you're ready to do this. You're ready to do this, Pile 3. Okay, so that is the main two areas, somewhat truncated, but the main two areas that of the three main areas that I do in the private reading. So what I want to do is I just want to finish up with a card from a dream and liminal space sort of imagery, symbolism, synchronicity sort of deck. I'm going to ask you to choose a number between 1 and 3 because depending upon which, that will be your message that brings it all together and what to focus on. So if you need to, pause the video and choose your number because I'm about to deal them out. So for number 1, we have grey. For number 2, we have orange. Okay, so we get very colourful energy here. For number 3, we have succulent. Oh, lovely. All right, so if you chose number 1, grey, it says loss, sadness, indecision, depression, confusion, ambiguity. This may be stuff that you fear if you go and do something new because, as I say, it looks like you've kind of achieved a lot and you get this gift, but then you start to sort of see, I need more, but that also brings that concept. But otherwise, I think grey to me speaks of Chokmah in the Kabbalah, and so I think this is about getting back to the first principles of who you are and what you really believe. And it is like going into the void sort of energy because Chokmah, Binah Chokmah, and Binah's kind of strong for you as well. And that's, I think, connecting to the orange for those who choose number 2 as well. But like Chokmah is Chokmah, Binah, and Keter are what they call the supernal triangle. And they, just below that is Da'at, which is the invisible Sephiroth. And we go through that to find out who we really are and what our mission really is, and to look at what we've done, like in the life review and that kind of thing. So it is a place of pure potentiality. So I think this is saying that the beliefs that you have are meant to clarify in that process, and that takes you to your next point. So don't allow yourself to get too depressed. This is actually a gift. But it is requiring then you to use that gift. So the more pure your thought is, the better. If you chose number 2, orange, warmth, joy, excitement, vitality, I think you're very much in this energy. You're very self-actualized. You're very creative. Your creativity will help you here. Of all the people that would come to this reading, you are probably the most comfortable with the void, with the siren and all that, because it becomes a creative adventure. So I think you will find it the easiest. Even if you leave something behind and go to something completely new, for you it is an adventure. There's a lot of warmth associated with it. If you chose number 3, succulent, restraint, patience, perseverance, survival, care, attention. That's succulent sort of plants, but I also think that's the energy of the siren. So I think because, what is succulent, what is attractive, what draws us in. So I think if you chose number 3, it's saying it's very important to have restraint and patience and think very practically about what the void shows you, what the siren call shows you, because you could get a little bit seduced onto something that's taking you off the road that you're meant to be on. So it's not so much looking for what would be pleasant, because it's sort of saying you get your gift and then you've got to go on the next step. So you shouldn't be looking for just another gift at that point. You should be looking at something that is new and can grow, and that requires discipline and constraint and all of those sorts of things. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.